Decisions. Who's going to win this weekend? So it's going to be a big fight. Big fight night at the UFC this weekend, UFC 263. There's two title fights on the cards, and a big name's coming back to the octagon after staying dormant for a long while. Nate Diaz, known as one of the him and his brother Nick Diaz, they're both needle movers in the sport. So Israel Adesanya versus Marvin Vettori, these two are fighting, going head to head again. It's going to be one of the title fights on the card, main event. So what can I say? I mean, who do I think is going to be out of this? I think out of these two, as in looking at Israel Adesanya's last match with Jan Blachowicz, everybody thought that Jan was going to lose and that Israel was going to win. That wasn't the case. But I mean, with Vettori and Izzy Starbender, they're far more evenly matched. Vettori's 6 foot, Israel Adesanya is 6'4". Vettori's reach is 74 inches. Adesanya's reach is 80 inches, and so Vettori has a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, whilst Starbender has a purple belt. But for me, I mean, they've both got their advantages and disadvantages. Vettori is good on the ground. He has a lot of power on the ground. So for me, if he gets his hands on Adesanya, wants to take him down to the ground in a takedown, then for me, I think Adesanya is going to be in trouble, because Vettori will hold him there, keep him there, and just get a submission, or there's TKOs or a knockout. But he will surely definitely be able to keep him down, then control him, and just do plenty of damage, and gradually, eventually, get a submission out of the guy. Where Starbender has the advantage to be on his feet whilst he's standing up. His stand-up is good. He's fast, he's athletic, he's flexible, he's quick on his feet, and he's got a longer reach than Vettori. And so, of course, when he's landing his punches, he doesn't, the way I understand it, he may not necessarily need to stay so close to land a good strike, while staying a good distance to keep away from Vettori, and to also get away in time. Also, on that, where that's concerned in terms of striking and the stand-up, Vettori's striking, his accuracy isn't that great in comparison to Adesanya. So fine, Vettori may have that power whilst on the ground, but once he's standing up in front, his stand-up, of course, is not going to be as good as Adesanya. Again, when it comes to moving, footwork, athleticism, cardio, of course, Adesanya holds all the cards, then has the advantage. So, it's going to be, for me, even though this will be the second time, it's going to be a very interesting match. Seeing these two guys go head to head, even though they fought before, this time they're going to come back stronger and far more willing to win the fight. The press conference is also very interesting as well. It was really heated, really heated. I can't remember entirely what was said, but I did pick up a few things that were said, especially on Adesanya. So I just cussing to and fro, talking about Vettori's teeth. And I think some time ago, someone had done, it was like a meme. It was the promotional card. This is sometime last week actually, and I think everything was normal except for Marvin Vettori's face. He looks like some sort of Frankenstein. Not Frankenstein, but he looks like some sort of Halloween monster with his face all disfigured and just his eyeballs pointing in different directions. But that aside, all the laughing and all the press conferences aside, everyone's going to be more concerned with what happened in the ring. The trash talking, as they call it, in the press conference. That's to sell the fight. Okay, that's great. Of course, and brings more, heightens the tension for the audience. It helps gives a boost to the pay-per-view buys. But again, the score will be settled within that octagon. So I'm looking forward to see what happens there. For me, so who would I think will win out of these two guys? I think it will be, I'm going to go with Starbender on this one, because Starbender has the speed and athleticism, and even though at UFC 259 when he was fighting against Jan Blachowicz. Blachowicz is much heavier, much bigger than Vettori. Vettori is much more evenly matched to Adesanya, so it's going to be a much more fair level playing field. Even if the fight is different weight classes, but still a fight's a fight. It's going to be a much more level playing field because the two guys, their stats, their reach, and their height, and their weight is a lot more closely matched to the other opponent. So, but again, I'm going to go with Izzy on this one because he has the, he can throw the punches and move at the same time. And before you get the person down to a takedown, you have to be able to hold on to them and then try and bring them down, at least even if you do it through a clinch. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Israel Adesanya on this one. Starbender, I'll put my betting money on him. Now moving on to the next fight, which is almost like a rematch again, because at the last fight that they had back at UFC 256, that was a no contest. It wasn't a no contest. It was a majority draw. So it was a very entertaining fight, very, very entertaining fight indeed. These two guys looked like really going at it, fighting to the death. Especially, but I mean, it was a draw. But if the judges were going to make up their minds and just kind of make a decision, because they didn't really make a decision for that fight. At least if they made a decision, then one of these guys would know where they stand. Whether the winner or the loser, whether the rankings change or not. For me, the last fight at UFC 256 where they fought before, I would have said that Figueiredo was the winner of that fight. Brandon, of course, did perform really well. He did, but for Figueiredo, you could clearly see that he was the guy who was having the upper hand. I mean, he was really fighting ferociously, or at least at the beginning of the fight, anyway. But for me, overall, he probably was, fighting just a little bit better. But hey, the judges, even Dana White can't really influence what the judges think. So this time around, again, it's going to be an interesting fight. I'm sure they're going to treat us again to what looks like a bloodbath in the last match, and they're really, I think they're really evenly matched. Figueiredo, his stats are he's about 5'5" in height, and his reach is 68 inches. His opponent, his height is 5'7", his reach is 70 inches, and each of them are a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So they are, they're really, really, really closely matched, really, really closely matched. So that's probably one of the reasons as to why they fought like they did, as in they gave each other hell in that cage back at UFC 256. And they fought so well and really entertained the crowd. It was a crazy match. You could hear the commentary. The commentators were just shocks. So yeah, I am looking forward. So who do I think will win? God, it's gonna be so close, Because I could say Figueiredo, but at the same time, Marino has shown that he is definitely a force to be reckoned with. Absolutely, and I could say that Maroon's going to win, but again, I could say his opponent Figueiredo is, definitely a force to be reckoned with. In fact, when I say he's a force to be reckoned with, it's kind of like an understatement, because these two guys are so well matched to each other, so well evenly matched, and they fight so well. They're very entertaining to watch. They entertain the crowds. They're really, really good, proper mixed martial arts fighters for their weight class. God, or could it be another draw? Another no contest, another draw, a majority draw. If I had to decide, I'd probably go for... Okay, I'll put my betting money on Figueiredo to win. Yeah, I'll put my money on him. He seems like the much more aggressive fighter. At least we saw that in the match. God, I can't make up my mind. You see, at the beginning of the match, he was fighting really aggressively, ferociously. As time went on, Marino started to kind of try and claim back all the points he had lost at the beginning of the fight. So, God, this is such a hard one. I am going to go, yes, for Figueiredo. for Figueiredo. Yes, that's it. Mine made up. Moving on, we have, the Leon Edwards versus Nate Diaz. This is the match where you see Nate Diaz coming back to the octagon after nearly 2 years. The last time he fought was against Jorge Masvidal back at, I'll write it down somewhere, back at UFC 244. But so Leon Edwards' most recent fight back at UFC Vegas 21 against Bilal Muhammad. It was no contest because of the eye poke, which happened twice, a lot more serious on the second time in comparison to the first time. But even in the run up to that incident, which the fight just had to be stopped because Bilal just couldn't continue because his eye was swelling up and bleeding. It was a really nasty injury, but thankfully he's healed and he's going to be fighting again pretty soon. Leon Edwards did if you watch the match, and I watched it closely, he did. You could see it was obvious that he was winning the whole fight. Even the short time that they fought, he's quick, he's fast, and in the octagon he was really tracking and going after Bilal, putting pressure on Bilal Muhammad while he was fighting in the octagon, and he was taking shots really well. Now, if you compare it to Nate Diaz, when Nate Diaz fought Jorge Masvidal back at UFC 244, I put a small poll on my Instagram stories just the other day, and quite a few people actually were saying that Leon Edwards would win. Even someone who I know, one of my kickboxing coaches, who is really well involved in the sport. In fact, he's going to be having his first professional fight soon with bare knuckle fighting a championship. If he's watching this, he'll know who he is. He voted that Leon Edwards would win. I was thinking, why would you? There's a reason why they say that the Diaz brothers are needle movers, and so I went and watched Nate Diaz's most recent fight, and okay, now I understand why people voted the way they did. And I understand why this particular person voted the way they did. I would have thought naturally they would have gone the other way and voted for Nate Diaz to come out as the winner in this fight. But looking at Nate Diaz's fight with Jorge Masvidal, just how his stand up, and he doesn't fight too much at least one in this fight didn't fight too much on the ground. As one of the commentators was saying with Joe Rogan, that he fights a lot better off his back whilst he's standing up. His stand-up is a lot better than his ground game. Also, he has a skin condition that once he starts taking shots, I mean, if you look at this fight with these two guys, Jorge Masvidal has barely a scratch on his face. You know, there's no injuries, no open wounds, no blood. Whilst Nate Diaz, his face is just a complete fucking mess, and it just looks horrible. And anyone who's fighting with that sort of blood and all sorts of just mess all over your face, of course, it is going to compromise and affect how you perform in the fight. So for me, I'm going to go for Leon Edwards. He's going to come out as the winner for this fight. Faster, quicker. Like Nate Diaz, he puts pressure on his opponent, fine. But Leon Edwards looks like he's going to has that advantage over Nate, that he seems just fast and a bit sharper in the octagon. I'm not gonna ramble on about that too much, but that's my prediction for those three fights, and it's been confirmed by Dana White that the winner of this fight will get a title fight with Colby Covington. So if Nate Diaz does win, and that's not impossible, excuse me guys, if Nate Diaz does win this fight, and that's not impossible, then that fight between Nate Diaz and Colby Covington is going to be huge, and there's going to be a lot of pay-per-view buys. Probably not on the same level as, let's say, if it was a Conor McGregor fight or a Khabib or GSP fight, if those two guys are still actively competing in mixed martial arts. But still, there'll be a lot of interest shown shown that fight by viewers, by fight fans. So PFL 4. This new girl who's coming from boxing, Clarissa Shields, her first debut match in PFL against Brittany Elkin. There's not much I can say, but I thought I'd look into it because it seems like a really interesting show. There's something special about her. So I looked at the fight, and yeah, she seems really good. I mean, for her debut, her performance was really impressive. And looking at her boxing career, she's fought about 11 times, hasn't lost a single match. Could that be a reason as to why she performed so well in her debut? Maybe it could have one or two contributory factors, or maybe her endurance was really high. It's taught her how to last endurance-wise in the octagon there for a long time, at least to fight to the end, at least fight until you win, get a submission, TKO, or a knockout. But yeah, there's not much else to say. It was impressive. It was an impressive fight, and from what I can see, if she won this fight, her debut, then of course, definitely there's no doubt that we'll be hearing or seeing a lot more of her, and maybe, not to sound sillier, but maybe she's about 26, 27 years old now. We may see her in the UFC in some time in the future. So I think last but not least, mixed martial arts, MMA news. Not mixed martial arts. Let's say the acronym MMA news. So Paulo Costa recently, and this is of course nothing new to people, but I'm just going to briefly run through, kind of repeat what most people know already. So Paulo Costa recently pulled off a really big event fight with Jared Cannonier. I think this should have been a title fight, I think, because Costa is ranked at number 2 in his weight division. I think, I should know this, in his weight division, which is, let me check that. Yes, I think he's ranked as number 2 in the UFC middleweight rankings in the UFC middleweight weight division. So if he had won that, definitely would have gone up the ranks, and he would probably put himself in a position for a title fight. But the reason why he actually cancelled the fight, withdrew himself from the fight, was because of the salary. He wasn't happy. He isn't happy, but I keep talking about in past tense, but it's still an ongoing issue as far as he is concerned. He is not being paid the salary that he thinks he's deserving of. He thinks he's worth more than what the UFC is currently paying him. And okay, the UFC and Dana White are notorious for how much they pay their fighters, especially for the fact that they are the biggest mixed martial arts promoter in the whole world. I have Bellator, PFL, One Championship, and there's a lot of other names that I can think of. But the question I'm asking is that, is he going to get paid? Is Dana White and the UFC going to pay him what he's looking for, he's asking for? Because this probably goes back, this probably relates to many other situations I can think of, the John Jones situation, but you can't really compare it at all, because John Jones and Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa is incomparable to John Jones. That's the fact. So, of course, I'll be making myself sound foolish if I said that. If I said that he can kind of say he's almost like in the same position as John Jones. No, he's not. I'm not trying to say that at all. But I mean, John Jones hasn't lost a single fight. What the question I'm asking is, potentially, could Dana White and the UFC cut Paulo Costa? Because one of the things that Dana White said, and he's right, and many people agree with him, and many people agree with him more so for the fact that Paulo Costa basically was going on and bitching and moaning about the whole fight, saying it was rigged. He doesn't agree with how the whole thing was run, this and that, and and blah blah blah. And his performance in that fight was it was ridiculous, and it was just it was rubbish. It was crap. It was humiliating. It was at UFC 253. So, the guy was just standing there like a statue, barely moving. And Israel Adesanya just picked the guy apart, and, he won. So, Dana White made the case that he just come off a really humiliating loss. So, really, he really shouldn't be talking. He should keep his mouth shut. And I agree. And this fight that he just he's thrown away the opportunity. He's kind of washed his hands of the whole situation. He's pulled out. If he had won that fight, then he could have used that as an opportunity to right all the wrongs, make the situation right, put himself back into a situation whereby he now has more leverage and has much more of an argument to make, has more, what's the word I can use? He has more leverage. He has a stronger case to make to get more money, to get a bigger salary. Fine, if he had done that, but he didn't do that. Instead, he pulled out of the fight, and in this sort of situation, he's going to be the losing guy because the UFC have nothing to lose or nothing to gain by. Well, they have nothing to lose by letting him go. Not gun, but letting him go, and listening to Dana White. If Paulo Costa pushes this, despite Paulo Costa's ranking in in his weight division, I've got a good feeling that the UFC may just say, okay, fine, you want to go, then go, because his performance back at UFC 253, from what I can see, how people making fun of him everywhere, all over the internet, all over the social media platforms, it was really, really bad. And not just his performance, but people's opinions, how they reacted. The mixed martial arts community, the sort of reaction that they had towards his loss, it was, people were, it's just, he didn't even really do anything in that fight. So when it comes to this situation whereby he's asking for more money, it's like, well, you should fight first, perform first, win back all those points that you lost, and then come back to the negotiating table, and then make your case for a better salary. Until then, you really don't have a leg to stand on, because his performance at UFC 253 was woeful. So, guys, I think I'm gonna wrap this up here. There's not much else going on that I'm yet to talk about that's happening in the mixed martial arts community or the sports itself. So I'm not gonna ramble on for too long. So yes, you can listen to my podcast on Spotify, on Apple, on Google Podcasts, and you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. On Instagram, my name's IkeJarko1. On Twitter and on Facebook, my name's IkeJarko. And I keep getting so tongue twisted. Wow. What else was I going to say? Yeah, so I may be expanding my podcast a little bit. I've been approached by one or two people who'd like to co-host with me. So that's something that might be in the works, in the pipeline. So let's see how it goes. But until then, guys, thanks again and take care. Bye bye.